Code 28 decided to follow rally in Australia. We selected the opposite lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championship. The series consisted of 7 rounds. The first was in Bathurst.
A field of 50 cars is waved off at 1-minute intervals from the Bathurst Civic Centre for Division 1 of the first round of the New South Wales Car Rally Championship. Bathurst identity Arthur Davis, who also owns Car 8, waves off the cars, whose positions are decided at this stage by ballot. Drought in the area has made conditions extremely dusty, thus giving a substantial advantage to the leading car. This is the last time luck will play a part in determining position, however. At the start of Division 2, it will be the fastest car from Division 1 who leads off, with the interval extended to 2 minutes for that afternoon section because of the dust. Division 1 of the rally consists of 8 special sections on private roads around Bathurst, including 1 run on the dirt tracks around the Mount Panorama circuit. As they come into the end of the special stage 1, Car 1 is still leading, but on corrected time it is Car 10 driven by Ian Hill with the fastest time, a car which did consistently well in Division 1. Car number 2 is both second across the line and running in second place, and will maintain a position in the top 3 throughout the event. Car 3 contains current joint state champions Rogers and Davis, and at this stage they are still hot favourites for the race. Car 5 is the Datsun Stanza of Jackson and Mayle, who will drive steadily throughout and finish well. At the start of Special Stage 4, 10 kilometres southwest of Bathurst, Car 2 is now running in third place behind number 10 in second and in first number 12, Clark and Harker, just leading and setting a blistering pace throughout in spite of rugged wear and tear on their Datsun Stanza. Car 5, Jackson and Mayle maintain the steady good driving that will land them in the top 10, while others will start well but fall by the wayside with mechanical troubles and fail to finish. These tracks are totally unfamiliar to the drivers. The navigators receive maps and instructions only 10 minutes before the start. In Special Stage 6, the Datsun 1600 of state champions Rogers and Davis is going well and in fact will finish 5th at the end of Division 1 in 2 stages' time. But this is to be the last we see of them. While running 6th in Special Stage 10 in the afternoon, they hit a fence and retire. Car 8, their fellow champions, are here running 11th. The leading car, Car 12, the Datsun Stanza of Clark and Harker. And now bad luck for Gary Burns. He lands heavily on his dip after this bump while running third and in fact limps on only a further 100 yards. 32 is Rob Warboy's Ford Cortina, the largest car entered. He finished 7th in Division 1 and won the Grade 3B prize for Special Stage 1. We're now in Special Stage 9 in Division 2. Only 1 second separates Car 12 from Car 2, while Car 10, the Escort RS 1800 of Hill and Bonser, lies third 15 seconds later. Car 7 is now running 8th. The VW of Dodd and Perrott was the winner of Grade 4 and finished 14th overall. Here's the Division 1 winner, a front mudguard hanging off and running second at this stage, having lost the advantage of the leading position that his Division 1 win granted him. And it's car number 2 who's now leading. Driving round that blind corner on a full opposite lock, Atkinson shows the style that gained him the lead in this division. The afternoon's driving beginning at Bathurst at 2 p.m. and ending up in State Forest at Sunny Corner, northeast of Bathurst at 5:40 p.m. This is Rob Warboy, but it's the last we'll see of him. He'll retire with distributor problems during Division 2. Car 5 was not placed in Division 1, but scrapes into 6th in Division 2 and manages to maintain that place during the nighttime driving session of Division 3. Car 7 moves up from 8th to 3rd during the afternoon division and stays there till the finish. Car 11 hits its straps in the darts. Rather than maintaining the 9th place they have here, they finish 5th overall after the nighttime session. While Car 9, the Mitsubishi of Chris Gabriel with navigator Yvette Pologni, could not manage to better their excellent 4th placing gained in Division 2. While running in 13th place, Car 8 has struck suspension problems. The service crew change a strut in a transport section, those bits of the rally route on public roads which connect the special stages. No competitive time is lost and the champions get back in the race. Belfield and Taylor in their Datsun 1600 winding up the end of Division 2. Now it's time for the evening meal break and major repairs with approximately 2 hours till dark. Car 12's smashed front mudguard receives attention. Car 12's occupants, Clark and Harker, are trailing Atkinson and Robertson in Car 2 by 5 seconds now and are anxious to regain the lead they held at the end of Division 1. Car 2 are equally determined not to let them, and both Datsun stanzas are checked out thoroughly for any possible weaknesses. Harker and Clark can have no way of telling, of course, that a flat tyre happening 12 kilometres from the end of the last special stage will give them different axle problems which will jeopardise their position. In the end, there are few surprises in the placings at the end of Division 3. The cars cross the line in much the same order as they leave the start. Car 2 has increased its 5-second lead to 1 minute 22 seconds, but their victory is marred by a disqualification from officials on the grounds that only the navigator completed the course rather than the car with the navigator in it. Remember, it had broken down after the last competitive section due to a flat tyre. However, a protest was lodged and upheld by CAMS. So, Car 2 remains the winner of Round 1 with 10 championship points towards the New South Wales Rally Championship.
A great win for Canberra's Peter Clark. For the second round, we move up to the New South Wales North Coast.
The Tourist Centre of Port Macquarie provided the starting venue for the second round of the Opposite Lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championship. 58 of the top rally teams in Australia were about to start on a route that would take them 426 kilometres over forestry trails and private roads on the mid-north coast. The weather running up to the event had been dry and dusty conditions seemed assured. By starting time, however, the sky was overcast and rain appeared imminent. But apart from a little light drizzle, no rain eventuated. This meant the leading cars had a substantial advantage over their dust-plagued competitors further down the field. The first round had been dominated by Datsuns. However, a strong field of Escorts, Lancers, Mazdas and an immaculate Fiat 131 were in a position to threaten this domination. Alderman Mac Adams of Port Macquarie flagged the cars away, and Chris Berry was the first to drive his Datsun away from the start control, heading for Port Macquarie Dam and the first competitive section. John Waterhouse from Canberra was next away in his 250 horsepower Mazda. It was expected to be one of the fastest cars and was well suited to the quick roads in the Port Macquarie area. Bruce Garland, one of the youngest drivers in the field, was next in his gold Escort. Most of Bruce's rallying has been in Queensland and this is his first full season in New South Wales. However, this event was to be a disappointing one for him. Mechanical problems would force him down the field and out of the points. The green Celica of Mike Batten was next away. Batten, who is the defending champion, finished poorly in round 1 at Bathurst due to mechanical problems. This time, fuel problems, a broken fan belt and flat tyres were going to cost valuable time, and the Celica from Bathurst would finish a disappointing 13th. From Nelson Bay, Peter Horton would prove that local knowledge, good driving and an old reliable Datsun can be a formidable combination. A consistent performance would place Horton in the top 5 throughout the event. The first competitive section was on council tracks around the Port Macquarie Dam. Major prizes were awarded for the fastest time on this section. Although only 2 kilometres in length, this deceptively picturesque section was highly demanding, and only 2 drivers completed the course in under 2 minutes. Canberra driver Peter Clark in his Datsun Stanza shows the style that produced the fastest time. Clark, 1 minute and 53 seconds, was 4 seconds faster than the second-placed Gary Burns from Newcastle in a Ford Escort. Jeff Mackay drove his Datsun 1600 to third place in this section with a time of 2 minutes. Mackay and his navigator Mal Sinfield, one of the larger-than-life characters in Australian rallying, weighing in at 22 stone, were to drop well down the field in the next competitive section. A flat tyre would cost them any chance of victory, and several minor misdemeanours, including hitting a tree, would see them finish out of the top 10. The first few cars had negated the effects of a little drizzle, and dust was beginning to become a major problem for all cars but the first 3 or 4. As the slight breeze dropped, poor visibility began to handicap some cars by up to 10 seconds each kilometre. From Mackay's car, we have the navigator's view as we approach the finish control at the end of the dam section. Over the last few years, rallying has increasingly come under attack from some elements of the conservation movement. Protests against events have been organised, and various attempts have been made to disrupt and terminate rallies on the New South Wales north coast. On occasions, trees have been felled across the rally route, and the lives of organisers and competitors have been put at risk. The sport has become more dangerous through the interference of these groups, who seem to ignore the cooperation and support rallying receives from the Forestry Commission. Rally organisers claim that the sport does not harm the forest in any way, and that in fact, foresters benefit from the work performed by rally organisers. With cars leaving the start at 2-minute intervals, it will be nearly 5 o'clock in the afternoon before the last competitor starts the event. Those starting at the tail of the field will run virtually the full route in darkness, a distinct disadvantage, because even though these cars carry the most powerful lights available, they can't substitute for daylight conditions. Very often the drivers can't clearly see a complete corner. They judge the pace at which they can take the corner by referring to land contours, tree lines and foliage density. At night, naturally, these are far more obscure. Several years ago, most rallies were held during the night only. More recently, an increasing amount of daytime competition is being scheduled. This is making the sport far more appealing for spectators and bringing Australia more into line with European standards. Over the next few years, new vehicle restrictions will force Australian competitors to comply with international standards and could enable this country to host a round of the World Rally Championship. Further west, the rally has moved into the forest, and the leading cars battle the clock over several competitive sections on either side of the Pacific Highway. We pick up the green Celica from Bathurst, driven by Mike Batten as it races down a track parallel to the highway. Next is Peter Horton's white and orange Datsun. At this stage, he's in third position. Ron Kremen in the Stanza from Gosford is right up with the leaders as we move deeper into the forest around Walkup. He would eventually take 7th place and pick up 3 valuable points towards the series. Spectators wait expectantly for the leading red, white and blue stanza of Peter Clark and Mick Harker. They're not disappointed as he blasts through the forest, extending his lead. Hot in pursuit is Peter Horton, grimly hanging on to 3rd place. Other competitors can't match the pace of the leading cars as they pass the halfway mark in the event and dust approaches. Peter Clark is relentless and the stanza performs faultlessly as he increases his lead to nearly a minute. With no breeze to clear the air, the dust hangs heavily over the track, with drivers at times flying blind. This is one of the leading Lancers, with Peter Moore at the helm. Unfortunately, he will retire soon with a broken axle. Here is the yellow Datsun of Bruce Rogers, running well, but within a few minutes, he will thrill the spectators with the drama of running out of petrol and having to retire. Jeff Mackay's run of misfortune continues as we catch him miscue on a difficult left-hander. A quick reverse and he disappears into the dust with a wave from his navigator, Mal Sinfield. Running well down the field, Peter Johnson has his Mazda RX-7 moving quickly despite the dust. He has steadily improved to hold 7th position and will go well in the dark, finally finishing 4th. During the night, we catch Gary Burns and his Ford Escort as they pull up to a passage control. A group of enthusiastic spectators make the most of this unscheduled stop. Passage controls are set at random around the route and deter competitors from taking shortcuts. Keith Byrne in the white Datsun 180B will retire in the next competitive section with gearbox trouble. As the night progresses, navigators use every trick to try and extend the usual 2-minute separation between cars. A 4-minute gap may mean a dust-free run, so control officials receive heaps of pressure as they work until the early hours of the morning. Bruce Garland is lucky and in front of the dust.
That is right.
First run in the new shell. How's it going?
Oh, good. A few teething problems. It's just getting used to it again, that's all. Been a bit of a side spell.
The dust not too bad?
Pardon?
The dust not too bad?
No, it's not too bad. Just a couple of patches. It's pretty good. It's good to be third car on the road. I'd hate to be down the field. It'd be no good at all.
Peter Clark, though still in the lead, is running further down the field and gradually losing time.
Peter, 1 minute lead at the end of Division 1. Is that enough with all the dust?
I don't think so, Keith, no. It's pretty bad this afternoon. We've had a couple of hassles with control officials too.
Right, no problems with the car?
No, the car's good. Except the accelerator started to stick in that section, so we'll try and rectify that now.
In the next section, Peter Clark will lose third gear, and the time this costs him will lose him the event. The Datsun domination continues, however, with Chris Berry in a Datsun 1600 winning the event from Clark by just 27 seconds. Third is Nick Belfield in a Datsun 1600, and fourth Peter Johnson from Bega in a Mazda RX-7. After 2 rounds, the championship is wide open. Peter Clark has 19 points, one ahead of Chris Berry on 18. Next are Ron Kremen on 10 and John Atkinson on 9. And the next event could change these positions dramatically.
Clark and Berry have set the scene for a battle that will continue throughout the series. Round 3 provided some great action and a few surprises.
The third round of the opposite lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championship started at Mayfield in Newcastle. A field of 63 cars started the event, leaving at 2-minute intervals from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time they finished late at night at Bulahdelah, only 35 teams would have completed the 450 kilometres of forest trails and bush tracks. After 2 rounds of the championship, Peter Clark from Canberra leads Chris Berry of Sydney by only 1 point. However, the Datsun domination of the series will face its most serious threat during this event with strong challenges coming from Escorts, Toyotas and Lancers. The first car away was the Blue Lancer driven by Peter Moore, with navigator Ron Barkers. They were to start strongly but would retire later in the afternoon with a clutch failure. Car 2, the Datsun of Neil Weston and Peter Berryman, was next away. This team was looking for an improvement on their last outing. In the previous event at Port Macquarie, they had finished 8th and needed a high placing to come into contention in the series point score. From the start, the cars travelled north along the Pacific Highway, then approximately 10 kilometres past Raymond Terrace, they turned off the highway and into the forest for the first competitive section. Car 4 was the Canberra Stanza of current champions Peter Clark and Mick Harker. A first and then second place in the first 2 rounds of the series has them in the lead. However, a good placing in this event is essential if they're to stay in front. The series is comprised of 8 rallies, and a good performance in at least 6 of them will be necessary if Clark and Harker are to retain their title. In a private forest owned by Masonite, the teams get down to business. The first section has special awards presented by the series sponsors, so teams give 100% right from the start of the event. Peter Clark in his red, white and blue Datsun is trying hard, but loses this section by just 8 seconds. Within those 8 seconds, 6 cars are placed ahead of him. The section is won by Ian Hill from Gosford in an Escort RS 1800. Although car 15 is running well down the field, he overcomes the dust and manages to beat Ron Marks in a turbo Renault by only 1 second. Ron Kremen, also from Gosford, is pushing his stanza hard and staying in touch with the leaders. Further north, the rally moves into State Forest, and the dry roads are punctuated with wet patches, making driving conditions awkward as cars and drivers are pushed to the limit. Chris Gabriel and Russ Whitty from Canberra are trying hard in their Lancer, however they are finding the conditions difficult to master and are slipping out of contention. A group of spectators have gathered at a hard right-hand corner to watch competitors negotiate a narrow wooden bridge. Close shaves are numerous, but Chris Berry shows how it should be done in his green and red Datsun. Trying a bit too hard in the Bathurst Celica, Mike Batten shows how it shouldn't be done. To only lose about 20 seconds and tells us what happened.
Well, after my navigator said turn right, then bridge, and I took that to mean a little bit of a gap between the two. And as you saw, there was no gap. And what happened? That was us going off backwards. It's the safest way to go.
You're lucky there's some spectators there to help you out.
That's right. If it wasn't for them, we'd be still there, I think.
Paul Bramble has moved the Red Lancer up to 6th position and using all the road and half of the bridge shows another way across. Peter Moore's Blue Lancer is in 2nd place but already experiencing clutch trouble. This will eventually put him out of the event. Conditions are now very dry and with little wind to clear the dust, visibility is deteriorating for all but the top 2 or 3 cars. As evening approaches, the leading cars have moved further north towards Bulahdelah. The Pace increases as drivers jockey for the lead, knowing the field will probably be reorganised to let the fastest car leave first after the evening meal break. With bad dust expected during the night, the first couple of cars will have a substantial advantage. Wayne Bell's Toyota is closely pursued by Peter Clark. However, they can't match the pace of Ian Hill's Escort and will start the evening in second and third place respectively. Arthur Jackson in the Roden Rally Datsun tries a bit too hard and loses valuable time as spectators help him off the bank. Rallying in this area has enabled local driver Peter Houghton to keep up with the leaders. At 47 years of age, he is one of the older drivers in the field and certainly one of the quickest on his home territory. Barry Smith at the wheel of car 12 fully extends his Datsun with some controlled opposite lock driving. Lifting a front wheel, the Escort of Ian Hill is under complete control. However, this car's twin, driven by Newcastle driver Gary Burns, wasn't so lucky.
Gary, it looks like you've come to grief. What in the world happened?
Fell over.
Whereabouts? When?
A few k's back down the road on a bit of a tight right-hander. Just all got a bit out of line and just clipped the bank and fell over.
Back at Bulahdelah, service crews prepare the cars for the night.
Ian, you're 20 seconds in the lead. Do you think that'll be enough with night coming on and running fairly well down the field?
Well, at the moment, Keith, that's going to put us, hopefully, car 1 on the road, which is going to make a difference, I think, tonight. It's been fairly dusty in the daylights, back where we've been running as car 15, and I think being in car 1 on the road tonight will definitely be an advantage.
You'll be starting car 1 instead of car 15?
We should be starting car 1 if they reseed the field after this first division.
That's great. The car's obviously running well?
Yes, the car's going real well. We've just finished doing an engine rebuild, but the car's gone particularly well this afternoon anyway.
I hope your run continues tonight.
During the night, the pace is fast and furious, with Ian Hill desperately trying to hold off a determined challenge from Wayne Bell. Bell's Toyota is going even quicker than during the afternoon, and Hill's 20-second lead looks vulnerable. Peter Clark just can't catch them and slowly drops behind. Finally, Ian Hill's speed and consistency proved too much for the opposition. The exhausted team finished just before midnight at Bulahdelah Golf Club.
Ian, are you happy with your run?
Yes, we've had a fairly good run tonight. Most things have gone pretty good for us all night, actually. We haven't really had any off-roads or anything, and the car's gone exceptionally well.
You'll be confident of holding your position then?
Yes, I think with a bit of luck we should win. I've just heard that Wayne Bell's got no lights, and Wayne was the only one I think that was close enough to get us actually. So I hope we have one, but we won't really know till the scores go up.
And when the scores do go up, Ian Hill has beaten Wayne Bell by just 1 minute. In third place, nearly 6 minutes behind, are Peter Clark and navigator Mick Harker.
The series is wide open as Rally's traditional Queen's Birthday event, the Bega Valley Rally, gets underway.
The fourth round of the New South Wales Rally Championship was the Bega Valley Rally held on the far south coast of New South Wales. The first car, waved away by Bega's mare, was driven by John Atkinson with navigator Steve Robertson. Next were Bruce Rogers and Richard Davis from Sydney. Third away were the series leaders Peter Clark and Mick Harker from Canberra in their red, white and blue stanza. Local team Peter Johnson and Jeff Jones were expected to perform well in their smart Mazda RX-7. However, a gearbox failure during the night division would force their retirement. Second in the series point scorer Chris Berry and Ray Stubbs from Sydney. If they can finish just 4 places ahead of Clark and Harker, they will lead the series at the halfway mark. The Bega Valley Rally is the longest and toughest event in the New South Wales Rally Championship. Over the next 24 hours, teams will cover nearly 700 kilometres, of which about half will be competitive and half transport stages. From the start, cars work their way north through state forests to a service break at Bermagui. For the rest of the afternoon, the teams will then move south, finishing the first division at Merimbula for the evening meal break. Peter Johnson mistakes our camera crew for a control and slows the brown RX-7. Quickly realising his mistake, he loses only a couple of seconds and races on.
The times out at the last control were wrong, so the 4 cars in front of us were actually due here before we were.
Didn't they put them back to 5 minutes as well?
No, they didn't.
Oh.
As cars queue at the start of a competitive section, drivers have a chance to relax for a few minutes and discuss the event. John Atkinson leads the field out into the last competitive before the first major service break at Bermagui. The pace is furious as teams vie for the lead at the end of the first division. The leader this afternoon will be the first car away tonight, and a dust-free run tonight could prove a major advantage. Chris Berry has decided to start a little more steadily to ensure finishing this long, hard event. His approach is rewarded. As faster cars fall by the wayside, he gradually moves up the field and finishes the first division in 5th place. At Bermagui, the first major service highlights problems many of the leading teams are already experiencing. Peter Clark, Peter Johnson and Ian Hill are just 3 of those who've lost valuable time.
I only ordered another new alternator on Thursday, which came yesterday. So we fitted that on the car and it was working okay, but for some reason it shorted out. And, the fuel pump works off the same fuse and that stopped the fuel pump from working, and then the car stopped.
Plenty of time.
Peter, halfway through Saturday afternoon, how's it going so far?
Not too bad so far. We've broken a rear trailing arm, giving a bit of axle cramp, but otherwise okay.
Does it cost you much time?
No, I don't think it's cost any. A few seconds maybe, that would be all.
Ian, you were a long time coming out of that last section. What happened?
Yes, Keith. Small problem in there. Just the fan belt had come off at about 23 kilometres into that section for some reason, and just had to stop because the motor was overheating, and we wouldn't have finished the section without the fan belt, so we had to stop and actually put the fan belt back on, and that's cost us about 6 minutes at this stage. Just not really sure why it happened, but
6 minutes is a long time to put on a fan belt. No other problems?
No, not really. It's a fairly difficult fan belt to put back on because it's a bit different to most other ones, in as much as it's a multi-V belt, and takes a little bit longer to put it on.
Cars moved south after the Bermagui service, and Peter Clark pushes his car to the limit, attempting to make up lost time. He's hotly pursued by Peter Johnson, whose Mazda is obviously handling much better following the repairs to its suspension. Neil Weston's Road and Rally Datsun is having a trouble-free run, and he will arrive at Merimbula in 6th place. Chris Berry presses on relentlessly, gradually moving up through the field with his hare and tortoise tactics. The surprise of the afternoon is the performance of Andrew Dixon Hughes and Neil Perrott. Starting car 26, they have enthusiastically driven their Datsun 200B up into third place. As evening approaches, the cars complete the last short section near Merimbula. At the meal break, scores are calculated and placing set for the night division. Local driver John Atkinson leads Bruce Rogers by nearly 2 minutes. In third place is Andrew Dixon Hughes, who has maintained the cracking pace he set early in the afternoon. Andrew's 200B is performing faultlessly, and during the night he will move past Bruce Rogers into second place. Ian Hill will retire his escort during the evening. He decides a 12-minute margin is too much to make up, and with the escort chewing up a new set of tyres every 50 to 60 kilometres, a low placing isn't worth the expense. At times, Andrew Dixon Hughes is trying just too hard. The night proves cold and clear, and fortunately the roads are damp, limiting dust. Chris Berry maintains his steady pace, and the T.A. Taylor Datsun performs faultlessly as expected. Neil Weston goes wide on this corner and nearly falls over the bank that was to claim Bill Dusty later on. Peter Clark and Mick Harker decide it's time to get down to business. They start putting pressure on the leaders, and with an inspired driving, move from 12th place to finish 4th at the end of the night division. Warwick Stansfield, at 48 years, proves that experience helps when you're fighting your way through the trees. Bill Dusty rolls over the bank just as we prepare to move to another location. We catch him drive back onto the track. Up on top of the Great Dividing Range, we catch John Atkinson as he negotiates a difficult left-hand corner. During the night, John extends his lead to nearly 3 minutes. Bruce Rogers in the yellow Datsun just can't match his pace and eventually loses second place to Andrew Dixon Hughes. Dixon Hughes is very tidy as he puts the 200B through the gutter and around this awkward left-hander. Chris Berry is not so tidy and hits the rocky gutter hard. He drives on, not knowing he's just punctured a rear tyre. It will cost him 4 minutes and 2 valuable places. Neil Weston also has trouble with the gutter, however he only loses a few seconds.
John Atkinson, you're a Bega man. You're 2 minutes ahead in the Bega rally. Some people would say it's local knowledge.
Probably a bit of local knowledge in the first division, but down south there's no local knowledge at all. I don't know those roads.
No problems with the car?
Last night we had some electrical problems. We were hurtling into a bend a bit too fast, and next minute all the lights went out on us, and it wasn't much fun. It was on his side though, so it wasn't too bad.
Bruce Rogers, we're going into the Sunday morning division at Bega. You're 30 seconds behind the second place getter. Are you going to be able to catch him?
Well, actually we're only 13 seconds behind.
13, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think so. In all sections we haven't had any major dramas. We've gotten easily that much. That's 13 seconds in 30 kilometres. So.
Sunday morning is clear and cool with a light breeze clearing the dust. With perfect conditions and only a short sprint of 4 sections covering 30 kilometres, little change to the overnight results is expected. Only second place is in jeopardy. Andrew Dixon Hughes is just 13 seconds ahead of Bruce Rogers, and Rogers in the yellow Datsun 1600 is confident he can make up the difference. With smooth, controlled driving, John Atkinson has no trouble maintaining his lead. However, succumbing to pressure, Dixon Hughes is not nearly as smooth, and this costs him time he can't afford to lose. Bruce Rogers shows the style that will grab second place for him at the very last moment. On the Sunday, he is actually 20 seconds faster than the winner, John Atkinson. Hundreds of spectators have travelled out from Bega to watch the last couple of hours of the rally. They line the dirt roads through Bega farmland that make up the final stages of the event. The roads are smooth and slippery, and competitors find controlled slides are the quickest way to handle the conditions. John Atkinson shows how it is done as he brings the stanza home to victory.
Good. John, a trouble-free run means you will have won fairly comfortably. Has it been that way?
No, apart from... well, it has been apart from lights last night, yes.
So this morning's gone smoothly?
Very
You're confident
smoothly.
you've won?
Oh, yes, we took it fairly easily and we had a 3-minute lead and there was no point in overcooking anything.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second home is Andrew Dixon Hughes. Has he been able to hold off Bruce Rogers?
Those 13 seconds, have you been able to hang on to them, you think?
No, I don't think so. I think a couple of 100cc on Sir Rogers has got us.
I think Bruce Rogers might have snaffled second place.
He's a daylight man.
Trying hard right to the end, Bruce Rogers, last year's New South Wales Clubman champion, takes second place. His best result in a state championship event and 9 valuable points towards the series. First in the Bega Valley Rally, John Atkinson. Second, Bruce Rogers. And third place to Andrew Dixon Hughes. Also his best placing in a state championship event. In fourth place, the series leaders Peter Clark and Mick Harker bring their stanza home.
You held on to fourth place?
I think so, Keith. We just had one spin in that section. That was pretty good.
Trying a bit too hard, were you?
Just having a good time.
Atkinson has picked up valuable points, but Berry's dropped another 2 behind Clark. Just as Clark appears to be taking a stranglehold on the title, the slippery roads on the far north coast sort him out. 364 days every year, Bellingham sleeps. This afternoon, however, it's different, as 50 of the top rally teams come up here on the north coast, and a different kind of horsepower will be shattering the peace.
The North Coast was looking magnificent for round 6 of the opposite lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championships. Recent rain had promoted lush conditions, and heavy falls during the week preceding this event guaranteed slippery conditions for the 55 teams competing. Series leaders Peter Clark and Mick Harker had drawn car 1 and were first away. The second car to start was the Datsun of Chris Berry and Ray Stubbs, coincidentally placed second in the series. Car 3 is another Datsun driven by Andrew Dixon Hughes with navigator Neil Perrott. A good placing for them could put the Sydney team into contention for the championship. The first stage starts on a dairy just outside the town. Cars then drop down onto the river flat, running right alongside the Bellinger River. Peter Clark starts the stage and the real business of the event is underway. This stage is only 1 kilometre long and although unlikely to influence the outcome of the event, is important for the competitors. The series sponsors have awarded special prizes for the fastest cars over this section and Clark is determined to pick up his share. The bottom part of this competitive runs across a paddock just up from the river. The track proves overgrown, rough and slippery, and drivers feel their way across rather than fly blind. Clark and Harker are on the boil right from the start and set a quick time averaging over 60 kilometres per hour on the short, tight sections. Next away are Berry and Stubbs. In the past, their consistency has proved their strength. For today, it must be no holds barred if they wish to keep the flying stanza up front in sight. A little slow through the gate and around the hairpin and they lose a vital second, enough to cost them the prize money for this stage. Ray Rays fans don't have long to wait as the red, white and green Datsun bursts into sight and races to the end of the section. The Datsun 200B, driven by Andrew Dixon Hughes, is one of the bigger, heavier cars in the event and will probably prove a handful on the roads drivers will encounter during the rally. Many of the forest trails the competitors will use later have not carried much traffic in recent months. Consequently, there's a lot of grass covering the trails, and this, coupled with the recent rain, will make conditions very slippery. Spins and offs will be numerous. Sydney hotshots Bruce Rogers and Richard Davis are out to improve on their great second place at Bega during the last rally. Their Datsun is one of the most powerful in the event, and reliability shouldn't be a problem. Bruce's enthusiastic driving style is popular with the spectators, and although spectacular, he proved one of the fastest through this stage and will finish well up with the leaders at the end of the daylight stages. The timing marker and finishes this first stage just a couple of seconds off the pace. Murray Coote has come down from Queensland for the event and settled into the local conditions immediately. The familiar white road and rally stanza of Arthur Jackson is next and travelling quickly as he flings it around a tight left-hander. Deep in the forest, conditions in places are really treacherous. This approach to a narrow bridge is already boggy. Peter Clark is the first car through and wisely uses a cautious approach that most other teams will follow. Chris Berry slips and slides his way over. By the time 50 cars have worked their way through this piece of forest, the roads will be virtually impassable. The last cars will finish this stage in darkness with 2 minutes separating each car. Those at the tail of the field will take another 90 minutes to reach this point. The leaders, however, are arriving back in Bellingen for their service break at the end of the daylight division. After an hour's R&R, the night division will commence. We catch up with navigator Ray Stubbs just before the teams head out.
Ray, how's it been going?
Well, the event actually has been very slippery due to the wet grass and bog holes. Other than that, Chris has kept it cracking really well. He reckons he's driving very slowly, but other than that, you know, we've had a few spins, anxious moments, but other than that...
Been trying pretty hard then?
He has been trying very hard.
Right, now how much time have you got to make up tonight?
We've got to make up 40, what my calculations are, 43 seconds on Peter Clark.
Can Chris do it?
Yes, easy.
You're currently in 4th place. You've dropped a position. What happened, Andrew?
I think we chose the wrong tyres and having a bit of trouble getting the power down. I've had a few spins and a few offs.
I suppose a few anxious moments for you now.
Oh, it's been an eye-opener, yeah. We actually lost our place in a transport. We just stopped to check a few things and the place got through on us and we were late into the next control. So we lost our place.
How much lead have you got? We've heard about 40 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's about 47 seconds to Chris Berry, who's our major contender for the title.
Right. Well, there's some guys behind you doing some fairly desperate things. They're probably going to get more so as the night goes on. Are you going to be able to hold them off?
Oh, I think so. It's very slippery, and I'm starting to enjoy the wet. It gets a bit hairy, but it's most enjoyable.
Was it been really muddy, or...?
Some of it has been, yeah. It's been really boggy in places, but then on the gravel roads, it's quite good.
Clark and Harker lead the field out into the night. The evening action will occur in the forests to the south of Bellingen, and with the pressure really on, all those vying for the lead will have to indulge in some pretty desperate driving to take out the event. Just 43 seconds separate the top three teams. The leaders are quick and controlled through this corner, but just down the road is an awkward left-hand hairpin. Thick grass covers, soft, moist soil, and everyone has trouble with it. Maintain their lead right until the last few kilometres. Then, overdue at the last control, they finally arrive.
Come on, Mick, tell us what happened.
Oh, we had a little excursion into the scrub, that's all.
Sounds like it was more than a little excursion.
Oh, no, it's just getting out was the problem because of the mud and that, you know. It wasn't very far off the road. It's one of those things.
Probably cost you the rally?
Oh, easy, yeah.
How much time?
6 minutes probably, I think. Time you get the winch out and winch it out. And
the winch back on the right.
Just one of those things. Oh, we have a ball up to then too.
Dixon, Hughes and Perrott have also arrived late. Their problems have pushed them back to 8th place as they finish the event.
Boy, that was rough in there. Well, that's over. I think this is our worst event, the state round. I think we had everything go wrong, so it can be just a bit. We can keep everything else from now on nice and sweet like it has been. No, it was a bit rough. Had the wrong tyres. We had a bit of trouble keeping it on the grass. You might have seen it before. We had lots of trouble keeping it on the grass. Yeah.
Arthur Jackson, with a solid performance, has taken 4th position, his best result this year.
Chris Berry and Ray Stubbs, 1st place for you tonight, 6th place for Peter Clark. It makes it an interesting series.
Makes the series exactly equal on points. The system of point scoring means that we have to drop a round. The worst round we've done is 6. The worst round Peter Clark has now done is 6. So we're equal even if we drop a round.
So the next couple of rounds will be very interesting. Ray, I think you were putting a bit of pressure tonight on Peter Clark and Mick Harker.
Oh, I did slightly misinterpretate the scores and put a bit of pressure on Mick Harker to make Peter drive just that little bit harder. Hopefully it didn't make him have his off.
The championship now stands at Peter Clark and Chris Berry equal first on 40 points, followed by Bruce Rogers on 24 and Andrew Dixon Hughes and John Atkinson both with 19.
With just 2 rounds remaining, the battle is really on, and it couldn't be any closer. Clark or Berry will be champion. No one else can win. Here's round 6.
Bateman's Bay on the south coast played host to the second last round of the opposite lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championship. Heavy rain had fallen during the week preceding the event. However, a fine clear day greeted competitors at the start. 68 teams had arrived from all over the state, and at least a dozen had a good chance of taking out the event. From the start, competitors travelled straight into state forest nearby, with Bruce Garland showing the way. John Waterhouse, car 3, has pushed in front of Ron Kremen, but gearbox problems are already affecting the Mazda. Kremen has the little Corolla fired up and records one of the faster times on this stage. Andrew Dixon Hughes is off the pace. A new gearbox fitted just yesterday is already giving problems. His navigator Neil Perrott has to hold the lever to keep the car in 3rd gear. The fight for the series is on in earnest. and Chris Berry knows his Datsun must be kept on the limit if he and navigator Ray Stubbs are to have a chance. Neil Weston is quick, but can't match the pace of the leaders. Steady driving, however, will enable him to move up and finish 8th. Nick Belfield from Canberra is only a couple of seconds quicker than Weston, but he will finish an excellent 4th. Only seconds separate most cars, and the battle between Peter Clark and Chris Berry is intense. The largest margin between them on any stage during the afternoon will only be 1 second. John Atkinson is showing the field no mercy, and although he loses a vital second on this corner, he manages to win every daylight stage. Bruce Garland can't match the pace of the cars behind him and is gradually dropping back through the field. John Waterhouse has suffered the same fate. His mechanical problems have forced him out of contention. However, tonight he will fight back to finish 7th. On the other hand, Ron Kremen will keep the little Corolla in the top 6 throughout the event. Dixon Hughes is still having problems. Chris Berry. Neil Weston. Peter Clark. By the meal break, he will have a lead over Chris Berry of just 2 seconds. It looks as though something as minor as a spin could cost Berry or Clark valuable championship points, and perhaps the series. Clive Slater from Western Australia, and driving a borrowed car, is hard at it, and just seconds down on the leading car of John Atkinson. Jack Whiteman has been moving up through the field and will reach 6th place. However, disaster will strike tonight and he will get stuck in a gutter at just 5 kilometres from the finish. John Atkinson powers up the hill on the way to winning another stage. Further west, we pick up car 1, Bruce Garland, as the field tackles the last stage before the evening meal break. John Waterhouse. Ron Kremen in the Corolla. Andrew Dixon Hughes. Chris Berry's time for this stage will be identical to Peter Clark's. The stage is set for a great battle tonight. Neil Weston and Peter Berryman in the white 1600. Nick Belfield and Mike Taylor in a similar car. Although this area has received 10 inches of rain in the last week, dust is still proving a problem for cars further down the field. The dust doesn't slow Peter Clark and Mick Harker. Their time on this stage is equal 3rd fastest. They match Chris Berry's time despite poor visibility. Back in Bateman's Bay, the leaders are having a break and checking the scores while their service crews prepare the cars for the night division.
Chris Berry and Peter Clark are level in the series and just 2 seconds separates from tonight. Chris, what are you going to do to catch Peter?
Well, we're 2 seconds behind him in this event. They'll regroup the field. We'll start off behind him. He won't know our scores. We will know his. We're going to take time off him all night. That's the plan, and stay on the road.
Well, you're not going to let that happen, Peter?
Definitely not. We took a second off him in 2 stages today, 1 second in each stage. So we're going to just keep taking 1 second in each stage off him.
Right. Now, these guys reckon that your performances have been steadily deteriorating right throughout the series. You started off with a win, and it's got steadily worse. They reckon they've got you on toast.
Most of our problems have been through minor mechanical problems, except for at Bellingen where we left the road, which more or less cost us possibly first place there.
Well, you must be a little worried tonight.
No, not at all, no.
Well, Chris Ray was telling us earlier on that he reckons you're getting on a bit and you're slowing down, your reflexes are going. What are you going to do tonight?
I'm going to talk to Ray about that later. Apart from that, we've gone well always in long sections. We've had the short sections today. We're looking forward to some longer sections in the night, and also our car suits the night.
Well, we'll see who comes out on top tonight. John Atkinson at the meal break. 18 seconds in the lead?
Yes, quite pleased with that.
Well, in the minute behind you, there are about 24 cars. It's going to be a little bit more competitive than Bega.
Yes, they're certainly having a bit of a scrap. A couple of seconds between Clark and Berry, and Clive Slater's not that far behind us, and he's a very good driver.
Right, we noticed they're working on the car here. No problems?
Oh, just a bit of a wheel bearing problem, that's all. And but that's fixed.
What, replaced it?
No, we didn't have a spare, so just a bit more grease, and it's not on the way out, but it's we're a little bit loose, and we repacked it. A little bit of water in it.
Right. Obviously, everyone will be pretty keen behind you tonight. Are they going to be able to pick you up?
I hope not. No, 18 seconds in front is a handy lead because we've only done 24k or something like that. So it's almost a second a k, and I'm quite happy with that.
Up the Clyde Mountain and well into the night division, with Clive Slater dropping out due to axle problems, John Atkinson holds first place comfortably. Ron McKinnon in second place can't bridge the gap. His rally will end just 3 kilometres from the finish when the car's diff fails. Third place is a toss-up between Clark and Berry, with positions changing after every section. The gap between the two cars is never more than 5 seconds until the second last stage. Berry's alternator fails. He borrows one from Clark's service crew but loses 45 seconds, allowing Peter Clark to cruise home in second place. Berry takes third, and car 8, Nick Belfield, comes home fourth. Neil Weston is pushing hard, but misjudges this one. He's lucky and only loses a few seconds. The Greenwoods from Canberra have run well throughout the event. They pick up a good 6th place. Don Booker's Triumph has run well, but unfortunately is about to suffer clutch failure. He won't finish. At the finish control, we await the first car. Unless problems have struck John Atkinson, he will beat Peter Clark by nearly 1 minute. John, the last report we had, you're about a minute in the lead.
Yes, 1 minute 5 at the meal break, but Rod McKinnon was we backed off a bit, and Rod McKinnon was getting knocked us off in the last 2.
Okay, well, it looks as though you won it again.
I hope so.
Congratulations. Now, tell us, why haven't you competed in a couple more state rounds this year? You would have had a very good chance for the championship.
Well, we did. We came second at Bathurst, and then I got pneumonia, and I missed out on 2 rounds. Then we did Bega, and we won that. And it looked as if we didn't have much chance, and I think the way the other boys have gone every round, we decided to give Coffs Harbour a miss, and...
Right. Well, you've made your run a little bit late this year. How about next year?
Don't know what we're doing next year, whether it's ARC or State Round again.
Well, we just had a radio message saying that you'd picked up about 40 seconds on Chris Berry.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That means second place and an extra point towards the championship.
Yeah.
Gives you the lead with 1 round.
Yeah, they're still very close.
It's going to be very close. Yeah. What are you going to do next round to keep him out? Yeah. You'll have to.
We'll just have to beat him again.
Atkinson has had 2 wins and a second from his 3 starts. His bout of pneumonia has obviously cost him a good chance to win the championship. The title now hinges on the last event to sort out who becomes the 83 champion. The last and deciding round of the opposite lock CBA New South Wales Rally Championship starts at Katoomba's Catalina racetrack. Peter Clark holds a slender lead in the series, with Chris Berry breathing down his neck. The driver on top today will win the championship. The 2WS Rally of the Hills has traditionally been held in the Hampton and Jenolan State Forests. Today, drivers will each complete 2 laps of the circuit before heading out to Hampton. Clive Slater starts the action. Bruce Garland in the Familiar Gold Escort is next. Colin Bond has bought his stunning, super quick Triumph TR8 out of mothballs. Bond knows Catalina, and the car is ideally suited to the racetrack. His time will be the one to beat. Bond's time of 2 minutes 12 is ultimately 12 seconds quicker than Peter Nelson in an identical car and Gordon Levin in a Stanza. Chris Berry's 1600 appears to prefer the dirt. The main interest this afternoon will centre on the battle between Chris and Peter Clark. Berry's pushing hard, but will it be enough to beat Clark? Neil Weston finds rally tyres a handful on Catalina's sealed surface. Peter Clark is a couple of seconds off the pace. Round 1 to Berry as the cars head west and into the forest. Clive Slater hangs the tail out. Bruce Garland cuts the corner with a cleaner line.